So if you're thinking about doing a podcast, I highly suggest you use Anchor, and here's why. Now, first things first, it's free, and you can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. I'm talking dollar bills, y'all. Plus, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you to the major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and a bunch of others, so that's one less thing you got to worry about. And they got all the tools you need to record and edit your podcast in one spot, and you can do all that from your phone or your computer, so in my opinion, it's really the easiest way to make a podcast. Now, if that's what you're looking for, and you're ready to jump on it, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. What up, though? Welcome to Tamara to the Break of Dawn, the show where you'll literally ride my train of thought as I discuss the different types of challenges and struggles that we all can relate to. I'm your host, Tamara Dawn, and I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. Now, you already know the struggle could be way too real sometimes, so my hope is that these shows will challenge and inspire you as I basically share the areas that I'm trying to grow in. So let's get it. So back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, but sometimes I sit and wish I was a kid again. But a few years ago, I used to lead an employment academy, and basically doing this job, I taught 9th to 12th graders job skills, but also not like specific to a task, but more so like the soft skills or whatever, or resume writing or interviewing techniques or whatever. We would take them on site visits to visit different career or jobs or whatever, and so we did that. But I also, within that, felt it was very important because healthy boundaries and stuff like that is something that's just super important to me, because I'm a firm believer that relationships and unhealthy boundaries within them, I should say, is one of the most detrimental things to society, because it causes brokenness, which then causes where the whole hurt people, and then the cycle continues. So it's very important to me to try to establish healthy boundaries, especially because things have happened to me within my past, where people didn't respect boundaries, and it just had such a negative effect on how I interacted with people. So as a result of that, when I had this job leading this employment academy, I would make sure to once a week, a day was dedicated to something related to more so the interpersonal skills. And I remember one time we split up the fellas, and I was the only female staff, and so the male staff took the fellas and talked about whatever. And I remember asking the young ladies, if someone was interested in you and you were not interested in them, and you did not want to date them at all, would you say that? Just be that direct up front, tell them the truth, or do you think that's mean? And the reason why I asked them that is because I remember around that time having a conversation with someone who, not just one person though, a few adults who felt like it was mean to tell someone that you're not interested in them if you're not. And so I remember asking these young ladies this, and they pretty much said the same thing, that they felt like that's mean. And I'm just like, and how is that mean? Because, gosh, which way do I want to start with this? Okay, for one, we'll go here. It's not mean to tell the truth and tell them you're not interested in them. What's mean, really, and even though that's not your heart behind this, but what's ultimately mean is to give them a false sense of hope by thinking that something's going to happen when it's not. Because here's the thing, you're giving them hope, so they're going to keep on trying to do what they're trying to do, and then you're going to get irritated by this because you're like, I don't like this dude, or for fellas, I don't like this female, or whatever. But why you didn't just tell him that? So there's that. Well, that, that part of it. Another side of it is, the whole thing where it's like the truth hurts. Yes, sometimes the truth hurts. Sometimes if you were interested in somebody, or if you wanted a particular job, or let's say you're trying to start a business, let's say you're trying to get a promotion, let's say there's a house you want to buy, or a house you want to rent, or an apartment you want to get, or a car, or let's say there's a collaboration you want to do, a creative project you want to start, just fill in the blank of whatever your heart's desires are, right? So let's say you really want to do that and you're really dead set on that, and it doesn't work out, or they tell you no. That does hurt. I remember one time, because I've had over the years so many different creative projects, and I write poetry, and I've had blogs, and it's funny, I've had blogs that not one person read the blog. So, but I remember there was this spoken word idea that I had, this concept that I've always wanted to take my spoken words, and I would write them, maybe say them, I don't know, and then have them just be over this video that it's not necessarily, more like a production, almost like I don't know. But I had this idea, and I remember going to people that I wanted to be a part of it, and first of all, it took a long time for one of the particular people to get back to me, and so I kind of already knew, this is probably not, whatever, but then there was still that sense of hope that I had because they hadn't closed the door. However, when I finally got to have a conversation with them and they said no, while initially it was it hurt, because especially for any of y'all who are creatives listening, you can relate to this. Ultimately, your creative outlet is like a piece of you. This podcast is me, my life, what I'm going through. So if somebody was to negatively critique it, or if whatever, you might at first kind of feel some type of way, because that's a piece of you that you've shared with them and whatever. However, on the flip side of that, once you are told the truth and you get past the sting of it, then at least for me, and I feel like this is probably true of anybody, it frees you from holding on to something you don't need to be holding on to. So now your hand is open to receive whatever you are supposed to have. And so I personally think that it is not mean to tell someone that you are not interested in them at all. I feel like that is a very mature and healthy thing to do, because within that whole realm of establishing boundaries and stuff like that, if you don't establish a boundary, if you don't set that line in the sand, or however you want to visualize it, if you don't do that, then they're not going to know that, this is how far I want to go with this. I don't want to go no further. And they're going to keep trying to whatever. And for me personally, and it's funny because my oldest daughter is like this too. If I tell you no, or if I tell you no, I don't want to do something, and you keep trying to convince me to do it. Now, there are very few exceptions to where it may be okay. But if I've firmly said you know what, I don't want to do this, I don't want to go here, I don't want to whatever. And this is not just exclusive to relationships. This is just period. If I don't want to do it, and I've communicated to you this, and even if I've gone as far as to communicate why, because a lot of times I feel like I don't know you an explanation. I said what I said, period. But sometimes I will give people, sometimes people don't understand, and they do need to understand why. So once I've done all that, and then if you continue to try to convince me or whatever, I'm going to get irritated. And so if I haven't established that boundary and you're continuing to try to convince me of something that internally I know I don't want to do, that's on me. I have no right really to get irritated with you or whatever because, you know, I didn't tell you I didn't want it. And then a lot of times you can only take so much and then you flip out, I should say, you snap. And it becomes this passive aggressive things where you're just kind of going along with it. And then suddenly, you're mad and you go like, how is that fair? So I just feel personally that the truth, though it hurts, it sets you free. Now, let's sidebar with that because I saw something on, on Facebook recently, like a post someone shared. And so then once you get that truth, what you do with it is your responsibility. Because here's the thing. The story or whatever, the meme was basically that there was this female and this dude very, so politely tried to come talk to her. And she was like, no, I'm not interested. She wasn't rude. He just kept, though he felt like because he had been polite to her that she should receive his advances, and she kept trying to thwart him and, no, I'm not interested. Oh, well, I did, I was polite, I was rude, you don't gotta be this, you don't gotta be that. And then finally what I loved about it is some random dude that was there sitting by her watching all this, he ended up inserting himself into the situation and like went off on the dude, basically saying that just because you were polite or whatever, also be polite and establish that boundary. And so let's go there because it has been my experience a little bit, so I could understand why people would feel like it's mean to tell the truth, because I've had that experience where, okay, so pause. Let me tell you about what my experience is like as a single woman in America, or I don't know. I don't ever have, like people in my DMs or whatever. I don't ever have like someone who comes in genuinely like, oh, hey, how are you? I don't know. How can I get this right? So here's what I have. I guess I'll just tell you what I have. I'll have, and it's just, it'll always be a bunch of them at the same time and then nothing for a while. I will have some random man that, and I'm not even exaggerating, will go from, hey, how you doing, to, I want to be your friend, to, I want to marry you within like 24 hours. And me being me, I'm always like, I always ask questions so that people can kind of discover on their own as they answer my questions how stupid that sounds, because you don't know anything about me. I could be a whole serial killer. So I like to ask questions. So I'm always like, well, what about me in the last 24 hours made you come to this conclusion? We haven't really talked about anything. You don't know me. Blah, 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 right? So what I've noticed is when I do that, oh, why are you being so mean? Oh, why this? Why that? I'm just trying to this. I'm just trying to that. And it's like, okay, that's fine and dandy, sir. Like, I'm not irritated because you, for whatever strange reason, want to try to marry a stranger that you don't know. I'm not irritated with that because, I don't know, maybe you really, I can't take that seriously, but maybe you really do feel that way. And it's not wrong of you to have feelings for me, or it's not wrong of someone to have feelings for you. Like, you, whoever you may be, obviously are attractive to that person. You have a dope personality or whatever. Like, there is somebody for everybody. You see it all the time. And so it's kind of like, you are obviously that dude or that chick to whoever's trying to get with you. So there's nothing wrong with that. But where the problem lies is that once I have told these people that I don't want to marry you when I just met you, that sounds so stupid. But don't get me wrong, I've heard of stories where people, whatever, that just ain't gonna be me though on no social media because, or probably at all. If I didn't already know you for a long time, to already know your personality, like maybe we were friends or something and I already was maybe feeling you but didn't want to say nothing, I just couldn't see me jumping like that because that's no. So once I've told you no, here is where the problem comes, because then it becomes, I've even been, FUB and all this stuff, like, it's gone. Like, how you go from I want to marry you to F you think I'm playing and all. Why would I want to deal with that? Like, what? You might try to beat me later if I don't do what you want. Like, no. And so I could kind of see where people, have an issue and have gotten this idea that it's rude or mean to establish your boundaries. And that's sad. Like, why do we live in a world where people, I don't know, like, is it, and I don't understand that, because whenever I've been told the truth, I really appreciated it. Like, sure, it's, might hurt the ego a little bit in any situation. This isn't just exclusive to relationships, but like I said earlier, it has given me opportunity to let go of a dream or a hope or whatever that obviously wasn't what was for me. And then usually for me, in hindsight, I usually realize, like, okay, no, I didn't really need that. That wasn't really a good fit. Like, I'm so glad that in the past 12 years of me being single, I'm so glad that people who I've had, like, I could think of people who I had an interest in, like, maybe when I first became single or over the years. I'm so glad none of those relationships panned out, because ultimately the last 12 years have been this journey of me actually figuring out who I really am on my own, and also figuring out, so who I am, what do I really need? And none of those people fit the mold, or they just weren't what I needed. So it's a good thing that, that didn't pan out, because ultimately my hand is open to receive whoever is for me, whoever is a better fit, and I have a better understanding of, like, actually based on who I am as a person, like, actually what I need from, whoever I would end up with. So I'm glad that didn't work out. I remember a job that I really wanted before I started working at the company I work for now. There was a job that I really, really wanted, and I actually thought I was going to get it. It just really seemed like I was going to get it. And then when I didn't, I was really sad at first. But then as time went on, I was kind of glad. And just kind of the way I saw things go, I just was kind of glad. No shade to that particular organization or company or whatever, but it's just I realized, you know what, that really wasn't for me. And that's okay. And that's the whole point of what I'm saying, is that I would have continued to hold on to false hope if I had not been told the truth. And so how is it wrong? How is it mean? Now, if your delivery is rude and disrespectful, and that's the only way that you could tell the truth, then that's your own issues that you need to kind of work through and learn how to communicate assertively without all the disrespect. You know what I mean? And I kind of used to struggle with being passive aggressive, where I would let a lot of stuff pile up, and then I would just snap. And so when it would come out, it would sound super rude and whatever. But then as I've continued to just try to grow and evolve and whatever, I realize it's probably a better, yes, sure, timing is everything. And so sometimes you do need to wait a little bit and whatever. And then I usually have to figure out, okay, is it really me that's irritated, or is it what they said? and then what about it, so that when I come to them, I'm not coming to them based off just my feelings. Yes, I'm going to tell you how, the feelings that caused within me, but ultimately, I'm going to hit you with them facts. This is what you did. This is why it's not okay. Please don't do it again. And then if you do it again, I'm just going to take it that, okay, maybe you don't really respect my boundaries or respect me like I thought you did or whatever. And then I'm going to just act accordingly. And for me, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to go off on you, or I'm a whatever, but it just kind of means I might fall back a little bit. I might, just not really hold you in the same regard that I held you, because what I noticed with me is, because I don't know, like, I'll put people in I think I'll just hold them in a higher regard, like in my heart, and then they maybe don't, and this is just friendship I'm talking about, like view friends as more important to me than maybe I am to them. And then it does kind of, like, if you're not invited to an important event in their life or something, and you would have invited them to yours. So like that, I've had that happen tons of times, and then I'm just kind of like, oh, well, it is what it is. Does that mean I'm not going to invite them to mine? I don't know, because I haven't really had important events, whatever, since then. But it's okay though. Like it hurts, but it also, like I said, helps me to let go of a false reality that I have in my mind about how things are supposed to be, and it allows me to hold on to and pay attention to what's around me. I watched a movie recently, and somebody was raised by somebody, but he had spent like his whole life, because his mom died when he was young, he spent his whole life trying to search for his actual father. And then when he found his father turned out to be just very self-centered. And I mean, like, the whole reason that his father was looking for him was like for selfish reasons, and he was like a grown man at this point. And then the person who had kind of served as a father figure, then he realized that this person that he had been, quote unquote, been searching for had been in front of him the whole time. But the whole thing about that is that he had to face what he wanted. He had to actually kind of like it almost be in grasp, and then realize that wasn't what he needed. And then he had to let go. And that truth hurt him, but then it made him able to grab a hold of, what was already there. The sad thing is that his person who had raised him died, but he died in a way like basically sacrificed his life, the father figure did, to save this person. So it's kind of like, then at that point he realized, and so I say all that to say, what he said was, sometimes the very thing that you've been searching for is right there in front of you, and you just don't realize it, or something to that effect. So it's kind of like, speaking the truth, I don't know, keeping it real can go wrong, but it's either your delivery, which that's on you. What are the things you can control? Your delivery, make sure you say it kindly, because especially if you're letting someone down, that's in and of itself maybe going to be a little bit painful. You don't need to like tear them down to do it. That's so unnecessary. But then if your delivery is not disrespectful and they don't receive it, that's not on you. It's not on you to make someone necessarily agree with what you have to say. They just have to respect it. So they may feel like, oh, like, let's take it to a job. If you're not going to hire someone, they may feel like they're going to be the best candidate, or if they may feel like they will be the best, person to be in a relationship with you, or business partner, or whatever. But if you know that that's not going to work, and you've communicated that, it's not on you if they don't receive it, because sometimes people have their own issues and their own insecurities. Like, I remember watching this reality dating or whatever show, and it came down to the last two dudes, and one of the dudes had always been hurt, had always been whatever, and the way he responded when he didn't choose her is he said, "I'm never gonna love again because of you." And what was so unhealthy about that is that if you're at that place, I don't think you were ready for a relationship anyway, because you need to heal, work on yourself, maybe therapy, journal, whatever you got to do to kind of like heal from your past. Don't bring that baggage into a new relationship, because that's unfair to that person, because then a lot of the times I should say, you ultimately like put expectations on this person to fill in a void that they can't, because that's your own pain and your own hurt that you need to deal with. So if that happens, that's not on you. That's their own issue. Don't make that your own issue. But I think what is on you outside of delivery is telling the truth in the first place. Like don't sugarcoat it. I mean, and maybe you do need to sugarcoat it to like not hurt their feelings, but don't withhold that truth from them. That's what's actually mean. Telling the truth, that's not mean. That's healthy. That's the kindest thing you can do sometimes. But being, fake or whatever, that's what's mean. So my challenge to you and to myself, because this is always stuff I'm trying to walk out, and sometimes telling the truth is hard because you do maybe care about this person. Like, let's say it was a friend that liked you and you didn't like them, or let's say it was a friend who wanted to, collaborate with you, but you just knew that wasn't the move, or just whatever. Sometimes that's hard, but ultimately, if they really care about you, then they will want what's best for you, and they have to respect that what's best for you. And so my challenge is, let's continue to speak our truth in love, speak the truth in love, but also not take responsibility for the things about that delivery that has nothing to do with us. So that's my challenge, that's my encouragement. Let's continue to grow, have healthy boundaries, have healthy relationships, and make the world a better place. That's the whole point of all this, is just let's be healthy. So yeah, until next time.